Hello again you guys, it's Carly from the Poetry of Nice, and today I have a video about 5 reasons why I love my death pile. First things first, if you are new here, welcome. This is a channel all about reselling online. I currently sell on eBay, Poshmark and Etsy, and I do that while being a stay-at-home parent to 3 little boys, 5 and under, so it's very much a work-life balance for me and a job that I can absolutely fit into my day-to-day life. On this channel you're going to find everything from haul videos to sales videos to tutorials, tips and tricks and all kinds of other cool stuff in between. So if that sounds interesting to you, please do think about hitting that subscribe button down below, and don't forget to say hello in the comments so that I can say hi back. Okay, so on one of my recent haul videos, I asked the question to you guys, would you like to hear more about why I actually really love my death pile? If you're wondering what a death pile actually is, that is a term that is commonly used within the reseller community to refer to a huge pile of unlisted inventory. Essentially, it's all the stuff that you have stowed away in bags and boxes that you have not yet managed to list, and it's just kind of sitting there not making you any money, and oftentimes we just continue to add to it and never really get the benefit out of it because it's not listed. So I think that the popular opinion when it comes to a death pile, or a money pile as some people call it as well, is that it's not a good thing. I understand that completely. At the end of the day, if it's sitting unlisted in the corner of the room, then you are not getting your money back to reinvest in other inventory. You're not making profit. It actually can also be really overwhelming emotionally. You know, a lot of us don't like to live with clutter, and when it starts to seep into the rest of our home, as it so often does with us being resellers, that can really have a negative effect emotionally on us as well. However, I have a slightly different opinion. I love my death pile, like I said, and I'm going to share with you today the 5 reasons why I like it so much. Reason number 1, it allows me to maintain a low cost of goods year round. I am located in an area where yard sales run seasonally, so they start spring, usually the end of March through to kind of April is when they begin. That is rummage sales, yard sales, garage sales, all that kind of stuff. That's when they start, and then they go through to like September, October, and then they're done until the season starts again. So I have about 6 months of the year, winter essentially, where I cannot source at those places. Now the difference for me is that where I go, my rummage sales, my yard sales and things like that, the pricing for the most part is really good. I'm looking at an average cost of goods throughout the year of $1 per piece. That is the amount that I submit to my CPA as my average cost of goods, because that is how it works out. However, it is often lower than that. If you watched any of my recent haul videos, you'll see that I tend to pay anywhere from like 40 cents to like $2.40 or somewhere in between there. But under $1 is really where I feel like I sit most of the time sourcing at these places, especially rummage sales. Now when I go to thrift stores in my area, they're not priced unreasonably as far as thrift stores go, but I'm gonna be looking at paying anywhere from 4 times to 15 times this the amount for the same item as I would if I sourced it sort of hands-on at a rummage sale earlier in the season. I tend to only really utilize thrift stores in the winter months, and that's a time when I see my net profit go way down usually. Even though my sales tend to be up, again, my cost of goods gets so much higher when I'm having to purchase things at the thrift store just to keep the activity going in my store, because I like to list a certain amount every single day to keep that activity going, to keep my store alive and well and all that kind of stuff. So I do have to source frequently in order to do that. The best thing that I have found over the last few years in order to avoid hiking up that cost of goods and really protecting my return on investment per item on the platforms that I sell on is to essentially make hay while the sun shines. So when the rummage sales start in the spring and then come back in the fall, I buy as much as I physically can and I store it away. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not just buying anything. I'm making sure that I'm buying things that I would still want to buy to sell, things that are going to have a return on investment, which for me, I try to aim for at least $10 net profit at the end of each item. But it's far easier for me to do that essentially if I'm intercepting those items and I'm buying them at that first point where they're being donated, where they're at the yard sale, they're at the rummage sale, which granted can be harder work than at the thrift stores because you really are digging, you're driving around, you know, there's more sort of back-end work, I suppose you could say, to do that. But again, those savings really are useful for me. Number 2 is it gives me the ability to prepare for life events. So that could be a vacation, that could be the birth of a child, which I've done before, that could be an upcoming surgery that's on the books. Whatever it is, having a backlog of items allows me to have enough inventory to prepare for those things. I don't like my stores to go stale while something's happening. When I had my last child, my third child, I spent 1 or 2 months up until he arrived, basically creating as many drafts as I possibly could, enough to carry me through several weeks afterwards, that my store would continue to have new listings and therefore wouldn't go stagnant essentially while I was, you know, dealing with all the loveliness of being a new mother again. But it allowed that income to keep rolling in, which is something that you really need when everything grinds to a halt and you introduce a new family member. Not only does it allow me to create drafts en masse, again, when I go on vacation, I'll mention as well, I keep my store going. At least 2 items go live every single day. Even if my store is on vacation or extended handling time or whatever it is, 2 items go live every day because I don't want it to die while I'm away having fun. And in my experience, that can happen. It can take a little while to get things to pick up again. So all those drafts are prepared, and then when I come back, I also don't have to worry about getting out the door sourcing right away or trying to figure it out with a newborn, or if some, you know, I'm looking after a family member who's had a surgery. I don't have to worry about leaving my house to find new inventory. I have a stash right there waiting for me to go through. Reason number 3, it allows me to prioritize by season. So I will say that almost anything sells year round. I sell Christmas sweaters in March, and I have sold shorts and bikinis in December. It really doesn't matter necessarily. However, I do choose to prioritize. So while I will list anything at any time of year, I'm going to be trying to focus on what is seasonally appropriate and what people are actively looking for right now when it comes to what I'm listing on a day-to-day basis. So when I source, I am picking up those items all year long. When I'm at my rummage sales in March, I'm picking up all of my vintage Christmas sweaters, my vintage collegiate wear, all of those kinds of things are still being purchased at that low price that I can get at those kinds of places. And what I do is I keep a fall box and I keep a Christmas box, maybe more than one, just depends on how much I'm finding, and I start putting them away in those season boxes. And then when sort of August to September starts to roll around, I pull that box and I start to prioritize it over things like swimsuits and flip-flops and all that kind of stuff. For me, that helps me to keep my store relevant, especially when it comes to like search engine and things like that. So when people are starting to look for those fall and Christmas items, my items are already sourced. I don't have to worry about trying to go out and pay up basically for them. You know, thrift stores, when they have ugly Christmas sweaters and stuff, if you're getting towards that season, they're gonna hike them right up, and you know, that's fair enough. That is their business. I have no commentary on that. But if I already have them purchased and I got them for like 50 cents to $1, then I'm ready to go. All I have to do is photograph and measure and list, and I am off, and my store is ready to go for the season and ready for those first buyers as they start to roll in looking for those items. Number 4 is efficiency. So to me, having a backlog of items is a good thing because it actually allows me to bulk process items. I like to photograph en masse, I like to measure en masse, and I like to list en masse. I find that focusing on one task at a time is really useful for me. It allows me to carve out specific time to do that rather than just trying to pinch a minute here and a minute there to do it. And it allows me to move faster through the processes and essentially streamline the whole thing. If I'm just sourcing 10 items or whatever it is, photographing, listing, and going out the next day and doing the same thing, that's really going to slow down my process and my turnaround time. So I love to have a large death pile, whatever you want to call it, to pick from as I'm doing those bulk processes each and every week. And number 5, for me, it's insurance. Things happen in life. Unexpected things. There are job losses, there are accidents, like I said, there are surgeries. There's all kinds of things that we can't necessarily prepare for. For me, and this again is completely personal, I love to know that I have a huge amount of inventory. When I say huge, I'm talking like 200 to 400 items maybe that are unlisted. To me, that is not an overwhelming thing. It's out of sight. It's not infiltrating my house. It's packed away neatly in storage totes in my garage. It's organized, it's labeled, it's just ready to go. But for me, that is something that sort of calms me, as it were, because it tells me that if something terrible were to happen, let's just be real, I don't have to worry about not only leaving my house to go source in order to maintain an income that we currently rely upon, but if something were to happen, we would really rely upon, you know, after our emergency fund was drained and things like that, potentially. Not only do I not have to worry about sourcing, I also don't have to worry about reinvesting in product. I've already bought it, it's already sat there, and I've bought it at a very low cost of goods, and there's profit sat there waiting to simply be worked through. For me, that is something that is really reassuring. It's kind of like my work emergency fund. So where you have money put away, you know, 3 to 6 months, whatever it is, we try to, right, to utilize in a worst case scenario. This is my emergency fund essentially for my business. Like I said, organized, neat, out of sight. It's not bothering anybody, but I know that should a terrible thing happen, I could maintain my business potentially without having to worry about more financial strain on my family in order to keep that ball rolling, as well as not having to worry about that time strain as well if I'm otherwise occupied. And that's it. Those are my 5 reasons essentially. Now I know this is kind of a controversial topic. I do want to invite anybody who has an opinion on it to please do put it down in the comments. I would love to hear where you stand on it. I'm sure there are many people out there who agree with me and understand where I'm coming from, and I'm sure there's many people who completely disagree and think it's an absolute waste of resources, and that is okay. To each their own. What a wonderful business we are in, that we can each fathom out our own process and our own way of doing things. So please, respectfully, I would love to hear what you think down in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. All right, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, please do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, you guys.